I'm Kate Czaplinski with the latest local news, including a standoff and explosion last night, a sewage spill possibly impacting a state waterway, and later on a preview of our front pages this week. Now, Frank Granito will have your forecast and a Nutmeg Sports update, and Donna Lang will join us later to take a look back on this day in history. But first, a 27-year-old man was killed early Thursday morning off of the West Haven Metro North Station, according to the MTA. Just after 6 a.m., an unauthorized person on the tracks was fatally struck by an Amtrak train, according to Nancy Gamerman of the Metropolitan Transportation Authority. Now, the incident caused train delays in and out of New Haven of up to 20 minutes, and service was on or close to schedule by 9:30 this morning. Now, according to the MTA, there was no criminality involved in that incident, and it was non-accidental in nature. Now, that deceased person has been identified as 27-year-old Daniel Canapari of West Haven. And in other news this morning, Hearst, Connecticut media and the Associated Press report that a body was found in a Connecticut building after an explosion during a standoff with a man whose wife had called police to report domestic violence. Now, State Police Trooper Kelly Grant said 9 officers were being treated for non-life-threatening injuries after the Wednesday night blast, and the remains of one unidentified person was found in a building at the home in North Haven Thursday morning. Now, Grant said an autopsy was scheduled to confirm the identity of that body, but that no one was in custody. Now, North Haven Deputy Police Chief Jonathan Mulhern said a woman called police to report domestic violence before that explosion at a barn behind the home on Wednesday night. Now, he said the woman was not at the scene when first responders arrived, and there was no hostage situation. Now, officials said police tried for hours to coax that man outside, including talking to him with a bullhorn. While all 9 officers remained hospitalized Thursday, they were members of the regional tactical team and included 5 from East Haven, 3 from North Haven, and 1 from Bramford. And in other news, a bear was sighted in New Canaan on 1268 Owen-Oak Ridge Road Wednesday morning, only days after a mountain lion was sighted on Marvin Ridge Road. Now, a photo of that bear was shared by Jenna Shepard. Now, New Canaan Animal Control Officer Allison Helm received her first call around 7 a.m. reporting that a bear was sighted. Well, around 9 a.m., she found traffic was stopped and a dangerous accident was just waiting to happen, she said, on Owen-Oak Ridge Road. Helm requested officer assistance, and they closed that road between Luke's Wood Road and Turtleback Road. Now, Helm said, "I needed the bear to know it was okay to come down." She said no way it would have come down with all of those people around. Now, Helm says she thinks the bear followed a garbage truck because they have an acute sense of smell. She said, therefore, she warns people to keep their garbage well secured and their pet food inside. She also said using an air horn is a form of hazing, which is a way of showing the animal that people are to be feared. She said if you plan to confront a wild animal, look loud and large. Now, she believes that there is not enough food for bears to survive in New Canaan, so they were probably just passing through. There's more on that story at ncadvertiser.com. And Milford police arrested a local man for allegedly pointing a handgun at another man on Sunday, April 29th on a school property. Now, 52-year-old Victor Negron of Naugatuck Avenue was charged with reckless endangerment, carrying a weapon on school property, as well as threatening and risk of injury to a minor. Now, no parties involved or associated with the Milford school system, police said, but that incident did take place on a school property when school was not in session. Now, Negron is charged with pulling a handgun and pointing it at another man during that argument. That incident took place in front of a juvenile who was with Negron, according to police. And the Connecticut Post reports that a Bridgeport cop was taken to a hospital after a suspect dragged him with their car. Now, that suspect was later apprehended in Greenwich after a pursuit. Now, 45-year-old Jermaine Parker of Bunnell Street in Bridgeport was charged with assault on an officer, engaging police in pursuit, and second-degree breach of peace. Now, this started around 8 a.m. on April 22nd when officers were dispatched to a residence on Holly Street for a domestic dispute involving Parker. Now, that incident report said Parker was driving back and forth in front of the house yelling threats. Well, after interviewing the victim, one of the responding officers told Parker not to return to that area. However, later in the day, officers were again sent to the same address after receiving another complaint that Parker had returned and continued to harass the same woman. Well, when the officers responded this time, they separately canvassed the area for Parker. Shortly after, one of those officers alerted the other to respond to Seaview Avenue and Holly Street in an urgent tone. Now, that incident report said that the officer that called for help spotted Parker's car on the road and blocked it off with his own cruiser. He then approached Parker's car on foot. Well, during a brief interaction between the officer and Parker, that car's door was opened, and Parker tried to flee, dragging the officer about 25 to 35 feet with his car door. Now, that incident report said that when the officer fell, Parker took off. That officer was treated at St. Vincent's Medical Center for abrasions. And in other news, a sewage spill in Massachusetts could impact the Housatonic River in Connecticut. Now, the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection on Wednesday was notified by the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection of a sewer main break that happened in Dalton, Massachusetts, that is impacting the Housatonic River. Now, a 14-inch sewage line at the bridge crossing on West Housatonic Street partially failed. Now, some of the volume is impacting the river. However, some is continuing to flow in the system. Now, the volume of impact and the release rate are unknown, but that line does convey about 2.5 million gallons per day. Now, Dalton, Massachusetts is located approximately 30 miles north of the Connecticut border. Now, Massachusetts DEP is working with the responsible party to correct the issue. They say a pump is on site to begin a bypass operation that is expected to take 5+ hours. While the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection is monitoring the situation to determine if there is any impacts to the Housatonic River within Connecticut's borders. All right, taking a turn now, we're going to throw it over to Frank Granito for a look at your forecast. Frank.
All right, thank you, Kate. Sunshine, plenty of it today. It'll be very warm, and humidity starting to kick in as well. We've got intervals of clouds and sun through the afternoon. We could see a passing shower or thunderstorm later on today with that humidity level up around 65%, a low of 64 overnight. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy skies, highs around 80 degrees. Rolling thunderstorms expected later on in the day. We'll see lows in the high 50s overnight, and cloud cover should start to decrease heading into Saturday morning. We'll see that cloud cover dissipate through the day. Won't be as warm out. Temperatures right around 70, and we should have mostly sunny skies by the time the Kentucky Derby gets started Saturday afternoon. That'll do it for this weather update. Let's go back over to Kate.
Thanks so much, Frank. We're going to step out for a break, come back. Donald Ang will take a look back on this day in history. We have more local news and Frank with your Don't Mix Sports update after this.
Now teeing off, Paul Miller from Miller Nissan in Fairfield.
Excuse me, Mr. Miller. What about my new Sentra?
Right now, lease a 2017 Sentra S for only $97 a month.
He is never going to retire.
At Galt, we always put you first. As your full-service home heating partner, we provide expert delivery, installation, and maintenance for all your heating needs with knowledgeable, friendly professionals that give you peace of mind 24/7. Galt Family Companies, you first since 1863.
At Rings End, we say it's time to re-love your home. Time to refresh and reinvigorate the way you live. And whether you're redoing something big or small, remember the letters RE stand for Rings End. We're the new model in home remodeling.
A Better View Window Cleaning Plus has been cleaning glass all over Connecticut for over 20 years. They also specialize in cleaning chandeliers, mirrors, skylights, tiles, and will power wash anything that needs cleaning. They hold an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and are fully insured and bonded. When you deal with a Better View, you're dealing with the best, not the rest. Call today for a free estimate, 203-284-8836, or visit them online, abetterviewcleaning.com. Welcome back to this May 3rd edition of your Coffee Break on the HAN Network. Time to throw it over to Donald Ang for a look back on this day in history. Don.
Well, Kate, it's kind of that awkward moment where Dr. Frankenstein realizes that there is a monster on his hands. But first, though, we're going to go to 17 2015, a total solar eclipse visible across northern Europe and Asia, as predicted by Edmund Halley, to within about 4 minutes of accuracy. That error was mostly due to inaccurate celestial maps of the day. Now, Halley would learn from his mistake and predicted the 1724 eclipse to the minute. Now, that 1724 eclipse was the last one to cover Los Angeles, or what would become Los Angeles. If Halley's math is correct, and trust me it is, LA won't see another solar eclipse until the year 3290. Speaking of natural phenomenon and Los Angeles, we go to 1957 now. Walter O'Malley, the owner of the Brooklyn Dodgers, agrees to move the team from Brooklyn to Los Angeles. The team had been founded as the Brooklyn Grays and were also known as the Bridegrooms and Superbas for a while before being nicknamed Trolley Dodgers after Brooklyn electrified its streetcars. The name was shortened in 1913 simply to Dodgers. Now, no one disputes that LA has better weather than Brooklyn. Did you know how much better it is? Since the Dodgers moved into Dodger Stadium, they have had 17 rainouts in 56 seasons. 1980, 13-year-old Carrie Leitner is walking to a fundraising carnival at the school she goes to when a car swerves out of control and strikes and kills her. Now, the 46-year-old driver had been involved in another DUI hit and run just the week before. Carrie's mother, Candy Leitner, would go on and found the organization Mothers Against Drunk Driving, which would grow into one of the country's most influential nonprofit organizations. Candy would resign from the group over some philosophical differences just a few years later. Finally, now we go to 1978. The father of the internet tells the story.
All of us found this perfectly natural to use email, which was invented in 1971, by the way, and we were all using it by then. In fact, we could see the social effects of email right away, because as soon as it was available, people started mailing lists. One of them was called Sci-Fi Lovers, because we were all science fiction. And the other one was called Yum Yum, which was a restaurant review thing for people, restaurants in Palo Alto.
Oh, in fact, you also invented spam at the time.
Yeah.
Spam was invented?
Spam actually showed up not very long after that. That's right. Somebody from Digital Equipment Corporation sent an advertisement for a job, and we heard the nuclear explosion from Washington, D.C., all the way out in Silicon Valley. What are you doing? This is a government-based system, and you can't.
Folks, 40 years ago today, the first unsolicited bulk email, which we now call spam, is sent by Digital Equipment Corporation. Calling bulk email spam is actually a Monty Python reference to the famous skit where, despite not wanting it, it gets delivered with every meal to a couple of guys at the diner. So if you don't want something but you get it anyway, that's called being spammed. That is your look back in history for May 3rd, and I am Donald Ng.
All right, thanks so much, Don. Well, in other local news, a vote will not be happening in the state legislature on a bill that would bring tolls back to Connecticut highways. Now, House Speaker Joe Arasimowicz acknowledged on Wednesday that the Democratic majority did not have enough votes to approve that bill in the House. Now, lawmakers blame a political divide between Republicans and Democrats for causing the bill to die in the legislature. Well, Arasimowicz said in part, when you have people that want to paint the picture that Connecticut sucks at all costs, that any new thing is going to force people out of the state, it's a tough narrative to overcome. Well, local Republican legislators were opposed to the reinstatement of tolls. Republican State Senator Tony Boucher thanked commuters and taxpayers who spoke out as opposed to that bill. Republican State Senator Tony Wong also released a video shortly before that bill died, saying that tolls were just another tax on consumers who are already overwhelmed with tax burdens. And in Strafford, a plan to create an unspecified large development just south of Riders Landing Shopping Center on Upper Main Street has received a zone change. On April 25th, the Zoning Commission voted unanimously to reclassify 11.6 acres as a CNC zone, which would allow commercial development and is the zoning district for the adjoining shopping center. Now, that site borders both Main Street and the Housatonic River and is close to the Merritt Parkway. Now, the land now has 8 parcels and includes 6 single-family houses, of which 4 are vacant, and the office building in front of that shopping center. Now, this includes all properties on 3 short roads, including Charlotte Street, Leslie Street, and Oronoque Place, as well as some on Main Street. Well, attorney Robert Rosati said the developers are committed to investing in Strafford, and they want to build something that rivals other successful developments in nearby communities. He said, in part, it's time for Strafford to compete with Shelton and Milford. Now, Rosati said that a full-service hotel, as well as condos or apartments, could be part of an overall plan for that site. He said the developers are open to providing some form of public access there to the riverfront. There's more on that story at StraffordStar.com. And as part of a multi-million-dollar project to expand the natural gas distribution systems in Darien and New Canaan, Eversource began working along State Routes 106 and 124 on Monday. Now, that work on Route 106 in Darien from the intersection with Greenwood Avenue north into New Canaan, where the road becomes Old Stamford Road and continues to Farm Road, then north on Route 124 to Oak Street. Now, drivers may experience some delays due to alternating one-way traffic as well as occasional lane closures. Now, to ensure the safe completion of the work, police and signs will be deployed approaching those locations to help manage the flow of traffic there. Now, weather permitting, that work will continue Monday through Friday between 8:30 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon. Now, work is expected to be completed by late October. And the Shelton Fire Department is looking for new applicants to help serve the community. Captain Ryan Matoli of the Huntington Fire Company said that the department has positions for everyone and that no experience is required, but the individuals must have the desire to help the community. Now, Captain Mike Plavkin of the Echo Hose Fire Company said that the dynamics of the firehouse resemble those of a close family, but that the love and respect must be earned through some proven dedication to the job. Now, those interested in applying for a position in any of the firehouses will undergo a background check, followed by a formal interview, a physical test, and ultimately a vote that will determine whether an applicant should be accepted as a probationary member. Now, those who are interested in joining can call the City of Shelton at 203-924-1555, extension 1515, or stop in at one of the 4 fire companies in town to get an application. And the Norwalk River Valley Trail is $5,000 closer to a planned Will Walk section of the trail thanks to donation from the Canine Company. Now, according to a press release from the trail company, it said in addition to supporting new trail development, the at-home pet services provider has donated 4 doggy waste bag stations to those Wilton trailheads. Now, the gifts were made as part of the company's 35th anniversary celebration. Well, according to the recent trail census, NRVT's Wilton Loop averages some 1,300 visits each week, and 19% of the visits are for dog walks. Now, Pat Sesto, who's the president of the Friends of the NRVT, said in part, some of NRVT's biggest fans are people who walk their dogs on the trail. Now, Canine Company is also a title sponsor for the trail's Mutt Strut that's happening on May 5th. More on that story at wiltonbulletin.com. But let's throw it over to Frank Granito now for your Nutmeg Sports Update. Frank.
Okay, thank you, Kate. We were at Cardinals Stadium yesterday, a huge boys lacrosse game with immediate playoff implications as Greenwich and Wilton fighting for one of those final 3 spots in the playoff picture. The Cardinals probably the ones who really couldn't afford a loss, and unfortunately that was not the case as they just kept getting closer and closer to tying this game, but the senior captain, Joe Murtha, proved to be too much for the Warriors. He scored 5 goals as Wilton defeats Greenwich 9-7. Dean Donano, Connor Drake, Nolan Quinn, and Ryan McDermott with the other 4 goals for the Warriors in the win. Let's take a look at the highlights from yesterday's game.
This is a player that if you gave him an opportunity to shoot here, oh, baby.
Another big, long shot, and that one gets by Santry. That's Connor Drake, the junior. Bogert directs traffic a little bit, tries to cut off a pick by Large, goes back to Large, who's wide open. He goes to the middle of Davey, and Davey scores! Beautiful setup, high shot by Davey. Murtha with the roundabout and bounces it in for a 4-2 lead. Another unsettled ball. There's a giveaway, takeaway, and a low shot fired in by the freshman, Leo Johnson, by 1, and in a game that has playoff implications in the FCAC. Wilton with the ball behind the net. Greenwich aggressively coming out and marking the defenders from behind is Murtha. Murtha over the top scores. Murtha comes out from behind the net, and that is going to be his 5th.
That was the 5th loss in the FCAC this season for Greenwich, who will now need some help getting into the top 8 before the end of the season. The Warriors put themselves in a very comfortable position now moving forward. Not the only lacrosse game yesterday, but a couple of wild baseball games. Danbury and Norwalk played 9 innings before the Hatters defeated the Bears 2-1. Trumbull blanking St. Joe's as they continue their push for the playoffs, 9-0 there. Staples over Stamford 9-0. 9-inning game in New Canaan. It was 7-0 after the top of the first, 8-7 New Canaan, after the first inning, and then the Rams would finally win a wild one, 15-14 at the end of the day. West Hill defeated Greenwich 10-5, and Darien picked up their 12th win of the season, 4-3. Softball, we saw the number 1 and 2 teams in the conference battling it out yesterday. The town of Trumbull's rivalry between the Eagles and the Cadets, and Trumbull getting the best of St. Joe's in this one, 5-4 the final, as they remain unbeaten in FCIAC play. We'll have plenty more on all of yesterday's action at 2 o'clock this afternoon on Nutmeg Sports. We'll see you then. For now, we'll send it back over to Kate.
All right, thanks so much, Frank. And we're going to step out for a break. When we come back, we're going to preview the front pages of our newspapers out today after this.
At Pamby Motors, we're not worried about being the biggest dealership. We're focused on being the best. We're dedicated to giving you the best experience we can. The Pamby Motors team is here to help you choose the right Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, or Ram in a friendly, pressure-free environment. And right now, during Ram Truck Month, get up to $14,000 off on all in-stock 2017 Ram 1500 pickups. Come in and see us for details. Visit Pamby Motors, Route 7 in Ridgefield, PambyZone.com.
UK Gourmet is the largest specialty grocer in the area, featuring food from England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. Over 80 teas to choose from and a brilliant assortment of biscuits to go with them. Over 70 cheeses from grass-fed cows, which makes a smashing difference in taste. The creamiest chocolate you'll ever taste using no artificial colors or preservatives. So say hooray for UK Gourmet, 78 Stony Hill Road in Bethel, or visit ukgourmet.us.
Had a sports injury or slip and fall that needs immediate care? OrthoConnecticut Walk-In Urgent Care gives you direct access to orthopedic specialists fast without an appointment. Biking, golf, tennis, soccer, whatever the sports injury is, sprain or fracture, OrthoConnecticut Walk-In Urgent Care can help. Open 7 days a week now at 4 locations: Norwalk, Darien, Westport, and Danbury. Go to myorthoct.com, like them on Facebook.
Create your dream home at Laurel Ridge. 3 bedrooms, 2-car garages, finished basements, wooded and lake views, recreation facilities galore. Stay connected to your local lifestyle with the convenience of being just minutes away from Fairfield County. Luxury townhomes that are smart, elegant, custom, and maintenance-free.
At Pamby Motors, we're not...
Welcome back to this Thursday edition of your Coffee Break on the HAN Network. I'm Kate Czaplinski, joined once again by Donald Eng to preview our front pages this week.
Recent history, you might say.
Yes, recent history. So what are you looking at first? Actually, your own paper. Right?
Yes, actually, I have the Trumbull Times in front of me. We have a Trumbull veteran, George J. King, there. That is going to be the Grand Marshal of the Memorial Day Parade. That's him. I just love the photo there of him. It's Baghdad. That's actually in Baghdad. That's a memorial to the Iran-Iraq War. Just like the visual there. Also, we have former Senate leader and former GOP gubernatorial candidate John McKinney has endorsed former Trumbull First Selectman Tim Herbst's candidacy for governor. That party convention is next week, so we should have some interesting news coming up in the next couple of weeks on that. And also, St. Joseph High School in Trumbull names their valedictorian and salutatorian. You always like to congratulate these kids for 4 years of hard work there. So that's this week's Trumbull Times.
All right, very cool. Well, I'm taking a look at the Wilton Bulletin this week. The school board there revising its budget to reflect the Finance Board's request to reduce $500,000. Also, voting begins on the budget. Long-range school planning will include many input from many voices. And in more fun story, West Side Story comes to the Wilton Play Shop.
All right, I have the Milford Mirror here, and the top story is an angry crowd, not surprisingly, saying no to the idea of putting electronic tolls on the state highways. I just like the guy's sign there. He's got, if you notice it says this will hurt people in business of Connecticut. He's also got a wanted sign there under the seat there, so I was curious who that was. But in lighter news, we have the annual Kids Trout Derby on Saturday, honoring its founder, the 50th anniversary of the event that I've actually been attending for the last 4 or 5 years. And some cautionary news, this actually might be the last year of the annual Milford Trout Derby due to funding woes. It's actually sponsored by individuals throughout the town. It's fairly expensive. They stock the pond with trout, and so they're looking for a new sponsor, but this could be the last time they do that in Milford.
All right, taking a look at the Weston Forum this week. Weston residents passing their budget at last weekend's referendum. Also, the commission there reviewing wetlands on a dog park property. They may have to relook at that design for the Moore property on Davis Hill Road.
The Darien Times, the top story, the cafeteria expansion there. The project has been set back, though, due to a couple of unforeseen problems. Also, we swing into May there as the main photo. And GOP candidates for governor hit the stage in New Canaan. That was the final debate between the Republican candidates for governor. It took place in New Canaan.
All right, taking a look at the Strafford Star this week. The big news in Strafford is that pink slips were sent to 59 teachers. Of course, the union very critical of this move since union members did agree to some furlough days to save money in the budget there. Also, the council set to vote on the 2018-19 budget on Wednesday. Actually, there's more on that story right now at StraffordStar.com. That vote, the budget did pass. And Curran Volkswagen gets approval to expand. And, you know, Melvin Mason in the Strafford Star also shared the toll story from Milford, and I think, Don, I could say I'm about 80% certain that the wanted sign is Governor Malloy.
You know, it is Malloy. Actually,
yeah.
now that I look at it, it is
yes.
Malloy, but I was looking at underneath it, the identification. That's what I was looking at there. So yeah, not a very popular.
Well, they were successful though, because tolls died in the legislature yesterday. So I guess their input worked.
So Dan Malloy can rest easy.
All right, what are you looking at next?
I have the Reading Pilot, and of course the top story there. Joel Barlow High School, the emergency responders, they do the mock crash typically at prom and graduation season took place at Barlow. So the Barlow students all gathered around and watched the mock crash there. It's all about choices, the headline there.
All right, looking at the New Canaan Advertiser this week, the Gridiron Club brings the life of Steve Benko to stage. More on that. Local property tax rate set with 1.74% increase. Some fun photos from Dave Stewart of a recent color run. The second annual was deemed a success with about 850 participants, and a zoning change aimed to assist retailers in the village of New Canaan.
You know, I have the Shelton Herald here and the top story. Volunteer fire department seeking new members. A story by Aaron Berkowitz there. You know, the volunteer firefighters always amaze me because you couldn't pay me enough to do it. They do it for nothing. Right. There's also a phony delivery man targeting seniors in the city, and we have the pavilion down there on the green dedicated to a longtime Shelton farmer, Philip Jones.
All right, taking a look at the Ridgefield Press this week. A big annual event they have coming up this weekend, and that's the Spring Stroll. So definitely they're going to have some pretty good weather for that. Now, also a cool story we talked about on Coffee Break earlier this week, and that's that Sheik the Camel now lives in Ridgefield. He's a rescue camel, and a couple in Ridgefield have them now on their property, so he's a big hit there. Also, budget talk and some votes on Monday, and the Teen Barn, the barn, still offering a judgment-free zone. I remember doing a story about the barn when I was at the Ridgefield Press. It's a really great place where some high school students get to hang out and kind of be themselves.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to top a rescue camel, but I do have in the Monroe Courier zoning amendments of concern to local businesses. You know, Monroe, that Route 111 and Route 25 corridor, always an issue there with the businesses. We have a Legionnaires Walk to help sick children in Monroe, and also a Narcan classes. You know, the life-saving ability for people that have unfortunately fallen victim to the opioid epidemic. Narcan, a big thing in a lot of our communities going on now.
All right, taking a quick look at the Easton Courier, something that we've talked about, and that's that Joel Barlow mock crash. Always a very powerful program that a lot of our high schools do right before prom and graduation seasons there, and a lot more in the Easton Courier this week.
And the arts and leisure section, we have the Splendor of Spring, garden vegetables there. You see the asparagus. Also, celebrating Pride in Bethel. I just love these photos. Are just
great
so,
photos.
Yeah, just a great photo there by Brian Hafele there.
Hafele?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a
Sorry
tough
about
one.
that,
Brian.
It's a tough one. And so that's the arts and leisure section this week.
All right, lots of good stuff in the papers this week, Don. Thank you for joining me.
Great, I appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, we're going to wrap things up here, but coming up at 1 o'clock, we have Yankee Fisherman, 2 o'clock Nutmeg Sports. But we hope you get out later today and enjoy this beautiful weather. We'll see you next time.